Acclaimed author Salman Rushdie is on a ventilator and unable to speak after he was stabbed at an event in New York on Friday. New details emerge on the FBI's raid of Donald Trump's home, with a search warrant revealing links to the Espionage Act. As shelling continues near Europe's largest power plant, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky insists on Western travel bans for all Russian citizens. Acclaimed author Salman Rushdie is on a ventilator and unable to speak after being attacked at an event in the United States. The 75-year-old, who received death threats after writing his controversial book The Satanic Verses, was stabbed in the neck on Friday evening.
Here's the man. Can you get it?
Police raided the house of suspected attacker Hadi Matar, a 24-year-old man from New Jersey who was arrested at the scene. Detectives say they're still trying to establish a motive behind the attack.
Have any idea at this point? Like I said, it's very early. We don't have any indication of a motive at this time, but we are working with the FBI, the Sheriff's Office, and we will determine what the cause of this was or what the motive for this attack was.
Indian-born Rushdie has received praise and criticism for his work, which most notably includes his 1988 novel, which was considered blasphemous by some Muslims due to its references to the Prophet Muhammad. He's since become an advocate for freedom of speech and has defended his work on several occasions. FBI agents seized documents labelled as top secret from former US President Donald Trump's home as part of an investigation linked to the Espionage Act. This newly published search warrant reveals that officials removed 11 sets of files from Trump's Mar-a-Lago seaside residence in Florida. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says the retrieval of the documents represents a very serious situation.
So when we talk about this, there are laws against the improper handling of this material. There are laws against that, and we have to recognize that. This information, as it is coming across, and we'll know more later, is highly classified, well above top secret.
Mr. Trump denies any wrongdoing and says the documents were declassified. Among the files was allegedly information about the President of France and an order pardoning Trump's long-standing ally, Roger Stone. Removing classified documents is illegal under the US's Espionage Act and can carry a 5-year prison sentence. Living just kilometres from the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power station, the largest in Europe, residents of Marganets in Ukraine say they're terrified about military bombardments in the area. The UN warns continued shelling near the plant could, as they put it, lead to disaster. This resident says, "We know the result of radiation and what might happen if something goes wrong." Ksenia, a coffee shop vendor, adds, "I'm scared for my parents and myself. I want to live and enjoy life in this city. I wish this wasn't happening. It's scary." Meanwhile, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is doubling down on his calls for Western countries to enforce a travel ban for all Russian citizens. Speaking in his nightly address, Zelensky says, "We need guarantees that Russian murderers and supporters of state terror won't use the Schengen area. It's not acceptable to ruin the very idea of Europe and our common European values. It's not possible to turn Europe into a supermarket where anyone can come in and pay for goods. Visa restrictions for Russian citizens are fair, and all defenders of European values should insist on them." Vladimir Putin's Russia already faces widespread sanctions from the West, but restrictions do not yet extend to a comprehensive travel ban.
Sofia Yazakova is hard at work, creating a large-scale drawing that represents the Ukrainian soldiers that have died defending their home country. For a long time, art seemed pointless, but moving into a Ukrainian art collective here in Berlin has helped.
For the
first 2 months, I couldn't pick up a pencil or a brush, couldn't think about anything. Everything seemed useless and meaningless because the war was on. People were dying, so what could I possibly draw? But when I arrived here and for the last 2 weeks in Kyiv, I stopped despairing and I started to draw.
The art collective called the Ukrainian Cultural Community has been set up with the help of German organizations. 18 Ukrainian artists are living here in a 500 square meter flat that used to be a brothel right in the center of the German capital.
I think this is a very open metropolis, a city where a lot of cultures interact and also where we have a lot of space for people to live, space for people to get support and to meet each other.
Victoria Temnova is from Kherson, a city in the south of Ukraine that is occupied by Russian troops. Back home, she was a well-known fashion photographer. Here in Berlin, she is exhibiting photos from the city from before the war to show people the real face of her home.
My city now has another everything. Like it's still Ukraine, but with no rules, with someone who just wanted to do something violence with your people.
Around 70,000 Ukrainian refugees are in Berlin. Each person brings their own story, their own sorrows and their own hopes. Now, migrants and refugees always bring something to the countries where they do end up, and this is of course no exception. The artists that have ended up here in the German capital Berlin have brought their own art, their own way of looking at the world to Germany. This is Jonah Kellgren reporting for Euronews Berlin.
A bird's-eye view of Ostend in the French region of Gironde after a hellish week in which more than 7,400 hectares of forest have burned and at least 10,000 people have been evacuated from their homes. Although they were partially contained during the night, the fires rage on one of the hottest days of the summer. Firefighters from all over Europe have come to the aid of their French colleagues who are unable to cope with the sheer number of new outbreaks and the re-emergence of fires that had not been completely extinguished.
We have 1,100 firefighters present, plus an additional 361 personnel and 101 vehicles from European support. They will arrive, some arrived yesterday, like our German and Romanian friends. And then our Austrian and Polish friends will arrive later today.
European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen took to social media to praise the solidarity of heroic firefighters across the continent, plagued by drought and heat waves. This map shows how large swathes of Europe and North Africa are now in extreme danger of catching fire. Elsewhere, blazes continue to wreak havoc in parts of Greece, Italy and Spain. And in Portugal, flames have engulfed the Serra da Estrela Natural Park, causing irreparable damage to a World Heritage Site.
Could this be the scene straight out of an Italian comedy? A man in Rome had to be rescued after he was buried 6 meters deep in an illegal tunnel he had dug. Police believe he could have been attempting to rob a bank until things went very, very wrong. His rescue required a lot of heavy-duty equipment and hours of manpower. Understandably, it's the talk of the town.
It's like that film, The Down in the Hole Gang. Some say no. They say it could have been a worker who fell. Yeah, right. A worker who fell. A worker who just happened to fall 4 meters underground. It's ridiculous.
First, he risks his life. Second, he has to make a huge effort. Third, he didn't accomplish anything. In the end, if he just stayed seated and did nothing, he would have been better off.
Police say there are 2 banks within a few hundred meters from the collapsed site. Another 2 people helping the man were arrested after they tried to flee the scene. Investigations are ongoing into whether the group was attempting to reach a bank.